December 7th, 1941. It was a quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii. Families were eating breakfast. Sailors were still sleeping aboard massive battleships. Soldiers expected another peaceful day under the warm Pacific sun. Then the sky suddenly filled with hundreds of Japanese warplanes. Within minutes, explosions shook the harbor. Battleships burst into flames. Fighter planes were destroyed before they could even take off. By the time the attack ended, more than 2,400 Americans were dead. One surprise attack changed the course of history forever. This is the story of the day America entered World War II. In 1941, World War II had already been raging across Europe and Asia. Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, had conquered much of Europe. Japan was rapidly expanding across China and Southeast Asia, searching for oil, rubber, and other valuable resources. But the United States stayed officially neutral. Most Americans believed the war overseas was not their fight. President Franklin D. Roosevelt supported America's allies by sending weapons and supplies, but he knew many citizens opposed entering another global war. Japan saw America as its biggest obstacle. The United States had placed harsh economic sanctions on Japan and stopped selling oil, threatening Japan's military expansion. Japanese leaders believed there was only one solution: destroy America's Pacific Fleet before it could stop them. The attack on Pearl Harbor was planned in complete secrecy. Japan assembled 6 aircraft carriers carrying more than 350 aircraft. The fleet crossed the Pacific Ocean in silence. Radio transmissions were almost completely banned to avoid detection. Their mission was simple but incredibly dangerous: launch a surprise attack that would cripple the U.S. Navy in one devastating morning. Few people imagined such a massive fleet could travel thousands of miles without being discovered. But that's exactly what happened. As dawn approached on December 7th, the Japanese fleet reached its launch position north of Hawaii. The pilots climbed into their aircraft. The attack was about to begin. At 7:48 a.m., the first wave appeared over Pearl Harbor. The code message sent back to Japan was Tora, Tora, Tora. It meant complete surprise had been achieved. Bombs rained down on the harbor. Torpedoes slammed into battleships anchored side by side. The USS Arizona suffered a catastrophic explosion after a bomb ignited its ammunition magazine. More than 1,100 sailors aboard the ship were killed in seconds. The USS Oklahoma rolled over after multiple torpedo hits. Smoke covered the sky. Airfields across Hawaii were also attacked. American aircraft were lined up wingtip to prevent sabotage. Instead, they became easy targets. Many pilots never had the chance to fight back. The attack lasted less than 2 hours, yet the destruction was overwhelming. When the smoke finally cleared, the scale of destruction shocked the nation. 8 American battleships had been damaged or sunk. Nearly 200 aircraft were destroyed. More than 2,400 Americans were killed. Over 1,000 others were wounded. Hospitals quickly overflowed with injured soldiers and civilians. Rescue crews searched burning ships for survivors trapped below deck. Some sailors remained trapped for days. The sound of hammering from inside damaged ships could still be heard as desperate men fought to survive. For America, it was one of the darkest days in its history. The next day, December 8th, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed Congress. His opening words became some of the most famous in American history. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Millions of Americans listened on the radio. The nation was united by anger, grief, and determination. Congress voted overwhelmingly to declare war on Japan. Only one representative voted against it. The United States had officially entered World War II. Just days later, Germany and Italy declared war on America. The conflict had now become truly global. Pearl Harbor transformed the United States' overnight factories that once built cars began producing tanks, aircraft, and warships. Millions of men joined the military. Women entered factories in record numbers, helping build the weapons that would fuel the Allied victory. The attack also united a nation that had been divided about joining the war. America became one of the most powerful military forces in history. The road to victories like Midway, Normandy, and eventually the end of World War II all began after Pearl Harbor. The attack on Pearl Harbor was intended to weaken America. Instead, it awakened a nation. The surprise attack became the turning point that changed World War II forever. Today, the remains of the USS Arizona still rest beneath the waters of Pearl Harbor, serving as a solemn memorial to those who lost their lives. More than 8 decades later, the events of December 7th, 1941, continue to remind the world how a single morning changes history forever. Subscribe.